Well, hello. My name's Doug Meadows. I'm the founder, visionary, and hero maker here at David Douglas Diamonds. And I'm going to continue on with our story of a century of luxury and legacy. And this is week 3. And what I wanted to talk about today is just slowly looking at the different years and centuries that my grandfather had to go through or experienced in his lifetime, and trying to really comprehend what that might have felt or looked like as a business owner, as a father, and as a jeweler. So right now I'm in 1928, and it's always been interesting for me to kind of take a look and see what happened in these different years. In 1928, Alexander Fleming discovers penicillin, and which pneumonia and strep throat at the time was a death sentence, basically. But now with the discovery of the penicillin, it was a treatable illness that they could get through. I know that there's a lot of Disney World fans and Mickey Mouse fans out there. Well, 1928 is the year that Mickey Mouse and Steamboat Willie, I guess, hit the screens, because there was no really relatively prevalent television at that time. The very first Academy Awards comes out, where the Oscars are handed out for the very first time. I wonder, today we look at the Oscars and the Academy Awards, and we're always looking at the red carpet and what kind of jewelry are they wearing, or what kind of dresses are they wearing, that kind of set the style and trends for the upcoming future for them. And so, I wonder what trends got started from that very first Academy, or what jewelry might have been birthed, or styling that might have come about. Shirley Temple was born that year, and I remember as a little kid enjoying watching some of her little movies and stuff. The Marx Brothers. The Marx Brothers, for me growing up, was one of my favorite, comedy. I loved them. And I think it was either in junior high or high school, I had to do like a 5-minute speech, which terrified me to death, and I chose to do it on the Marx Brothers. And but that year, Animal Crackers was released. They had previous things come out earlier than that, but what amazed me is, we all have our favorite Marx Brothers, from Gumbo to Harpo to Groucho, and Chico, things like that. But I didn't realize that Groucho was born in 1890. So when he did Animal Crackers, he was 38 years old. And then we had a transition of presidencies getting ready to happen. In that year, Hubert Hoover won the election, and got sworn into presidency the following year. But and then, if you remember, in 1926, when I talked about that year, that the New York Babe Ruth and the New York Yankees lost to the Cardinals, St. Louis Cardinals, but they got revenge in 1928, and they swept it, and they took it back away from them. And it was really interesting. When you look at the most frequent championships of the World Series, the New York Yankees has won 27 titles, and the St. Louis Cardinals have won 11. And but then as we transition from 1928 into 1929, we're beginning to close out the Roaring Twenties and all that encompassed. Hubert Hoover is declaring that the U.S. is, the new president, Hubert Hoover, is declaring that the U.S. is the most unsafe civilized country in the world. And what did we have going on? What made it so unsafe? Well, in that year, we had the St. Valentine's Day Massacre, which, I've only seen the movie on or seen a few pictures of. Their goal was to go after Al Capone. They hired, Elliot Ness and things to go after Prohibition and go after organized crime. And so they went after Al Capone, and they finally got him in prison that year. But towards the end of the year of 1929, we had the beginning of just a really rough next long time. And we'll talk about that more later. But the start of it was the Wall Street crash in I think it was October of 1929. But what was going on in my grandfather's time, in his life at that time, is he was beginning to make a transition. So he'd been down at the Detroit Metropolitan Building, a building again that was designed for jewelers, and he was up there on the 9th floor in room 5, and as in 1926, when that building opened, or my grandfather started his business, there was another building that had just opened towards in August of 1926, and it was about 5 blocks away from where he was at, and it was called the Michigan Theater Building, or the Detroit Michigan Theater Building, because there is a Michigan Theater Building in Ann Arbor also, not to be confused with the one downtown Detroit. And it was in a new developing area, even though it was 5 blocks away from where the Metropolitan Building was. And for whatever reason, my grandfather decides to move from the one building to this new building. So he packed up and moved on down there. And, I'm just, I don't know. He was young. I mean, he's only like 24, 25 years old. He's only been married for about 3 or 4 years. It's hard enough to start a family or even think about starting a family, but all the changes we go through in life of getting married and then starting a business and then moving a business. I don't know. I've moved a few times in my life, my business, and it is not easy and it is not fun. And so I just can't imagine what was going on with him wanting to make that move. But that Michigan Theater Building is the building that I remember that I spent a few times at as a child. And but I don't know. It's the more I learn about the past, the more it really appreciates the legacy that we have, that my grandfather has created in our industry and in me, and now in Joseph. And so, I don't know, that's, I don't want to linger on anymore on this episode, but, come on back next week and we'll see what new things we discover. But thanks for joining.